Hello and welcome, friends, to the next episode of JoeShine's Let's Play Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. In our first episode, we basically did a test flight. We put together a very simple rocket, we went up, we came down, and we gained a little bit of science. So now we're going to make a more interesting rocket and try and do some more interesting things. So we're going to go into the research and development, and we see that I've spent some of the science points that we got last time on the one thing that we could afford. It was the only thing available to us, basic rocketry. How hard can rocket science be anyway? According to the Kerbals, maybe not that hard. They seem very chipper about the whole thing. This opens up a few other options, and we can't afford any of them right now, but that's okay. Quick note on the tech tree. We earned 17 points of science in our first flight. There are going to be flights later on where we will have an opportunity to earn hundreds of points in one single flight. I have decided that I don't want to just fly through this tech tree too quickly, so we're going to limit ourselves to 2 tech purchases in between each flight. And I feel that'll be a nice little pacing, force us to use the things that we're developing. So what did we get out of basic rocketry? We got a larger fuel tank than the one we started with, a smaller fuel tank than the one we started with. This will also come in handy. The mystery goo containment unit. All right, our first piece of actual science equipment. It's a pile of goo, a jar of goo, I guess, and we're going to subject it to situations and see what happens. And the stack decoupler. This I'm very excited about because now we can make some very interesting rockets. While we're in here, quickly, we'll jump over to the Science Archives, where we see Werner von Karman, and he gives us a report of everything that we've done around every body in the solar system. So you can keep track and make sure you don't miss anything, like I know I did in the first mission, but that's okay. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to make up for things. So we'll go back and return to the vehicle assembly building, where I have put together a more interesting rocket. A lot of players, and I think a lot of progressions are talk it through this way. The first flight, very simple. The second flight, you may go for that intercontinental kind of, that ballistic arc, trying to get up out of the atmosphere and coming down. I think that we can actually reach further. I think that we can get into orbit on this flight. So we'll just show you what we've got here. A very small first stage, a single one of these fuel tanks around a single engine, on a single engine rather, surrounded by 2 solid fuel tanks. The reason that I did it this way is I don't have a radial decoupler. Once these burn out, they're just dead weight unless I can drop them. So I'm going to do that. These are all going to burn out at about the same time. Not quite. These will burn out first, but not too long, so I feel okay about that. Then, once these burn out, this decoupler will blow that, and the next engine will fire, our second stage, with 4 of the larger fuel tanks, followed by another decoupler, an engine, and a single tank. This is going to be our adjustment stage and our deorbiting stage. We should be able to get pretty close on this one. I hope we can. If not, we're going to have plenty of fuel to achieve a stable orbit and get home. I put 4 of the goo containment units up here because I want to just make sure that we're taking the most advantage of the opportunities. And of course, we have our single parachute. So let's make sure that Jeb stays home. And we're going to give this mission again to Hudson because I don't think he got a chance to really experience the joy and terror of spaceflight in his first mission. So we want to give him the opportunity to be the first Kerbal to orbit the planet. Save again and go to the launch pad. When we get out here, we're going to do a little bit of science with the goo containment before we even take off. The same way that we do the crew reports. I'm going to observe that and keep the data. Now, I've tested this arrangement before, and it is not terribly stable, so I'm going to be fighting this the entire way up. So we'll throttle up, we turn on stabilization, and we go. And, ooh, I did not expect to be going that direction. That's not good. Observe some mystery goo on the way up. Sure, why not? A crew report. We'll take that too. A bunch of science. This is really funny. Every single time that I've tried something like this, I immediately tilted out of true the other direction, so this was not planned for. I am trying really hard. There we go. Alright. I do want to go east, so that was inefficient to zigzag back and forth like that, but alright. We'll accept it. And I do want to angle back over. Okay, good. We are accelerating. I've sort of begun our gravity turn. That's okay. We'll embrace it and keep going. Hudson is not confident in my decision, but that's okay. Speaking of the gravity turn, I'm not going to try and give a technical explanation of why you do everything that I'm going to describe, but I will hopefully at least be able to give a colloquial understanding, just making sure that it makes sense, so that if you're playing this as well, you know what's going on. The gravity turn, if you are accelerating directly away from the planet, the effort that your engine is putting in is completely devoted to fighting against gravity. And so that's very inefficient. By angling over, by basically trying to fall around the planet, you're using gravity to pull you into this orbit, and it becomes much more efficient. So, we're approaching 500 meters per second, we've got plenty of fuel, this is going fine. I'm going to go over to the map mode, M to go to the map mode. If you have a little mouse over the chevron here, click it to keep the data up. We see our apoapsis, our highest point in our orbit, rising. You can keep an eye on your fuel up here. The Kerbal atmosphere, let's bring up our nav ball, the Kerbal atmosphere extends to, call it 70 kilometers. It's 69 and change. So really, once our apoapsis is out of the atmosphere, we're kind of fine, but if I cut my engine here, we would be impeded by atmosphere, because we're still flying through the atmosphere. But once I get up a little over 100, I'm going to cut my engine, because that's as high as I need to be. As long as I'm above 70, I can be in a stable orbit. I am going to take an opportunity to create a maneuver node. So clicking to put a maneuver node brings up these axes. We've got our prograde and retrograde. We have our normal and anti-normal, and our radial in, radial out. What does this mean? Go faster, go slower, tilt up, tilt down, go closer to the body that you're orbiting, go away from the body that you're orbiting. The most efficient way to adjust your orbit is prograde and retrograde. That is the best way that you can do this. And I overshot there. That's okay. I'm going to pull it back. Okay, when these flip back and forth, that means that you're about where you need to be. So tilt that out a little bit more. All right, there we go. Sure, why not? That's fine. Close enough, close enough. All right. So now we have our maneuver node. And down here on the nav ball, we can see a little blue marker. You see a ghosted image here. This is because I am using the enhanced nav ball mod. I recommend it. It makes things so much easier. We're going to move over to the node and we'll leave map mode there. The node stays. We won't lose any information. Our stage is about to cut out, but that's okay because, like I said, we've got plenty of fuel in this stage up here. The burn time shows us how long our engine needs to burn to accomplish the necessary delta V, the effort to get our spacecraft into the orbit that we're trying to do, to accomplish the maneuver that we want. But all of that implies it's happening kind of at the same time as the way the math basically works, and that you can't do that, so we time our burn to start on one side of the node and end on the other side of the node. I'm going to be staging the middle, so I'm going to go ahead and start now. And our engine immediately cuts out, but that's okay because we stage and kick up the next engine. You can see the necessary delta V falling. The delta V necessary to accomplish our maneuver node is dropping, which is good. And yeah, we're doing fine. All that goofiness at the beginning of the launch, no problem. I'm gonna slow down a little bit, drop our acceleration as we come close to completing our maneuver. I'm just all over the place there. And we cut our engine. Going to remove that maneuver node just so it's no longer in our way. And we look, and it's pretty close to circular, but more importantly, it's a stable orbit. Congratulations! All right, Hudson. Let's, while we're up here, quickly do some science before we take in the majesty of the situation. Observe the mystery goo in space. The goo seems to have clumped into a sphere. It also appears to have become brittle. Okay, good to know. Keep that data. We're going to do a crew report from space. Looking out the window, the shores look inviting and you watch the waves roll into the coast. So, as you're flying around the planet, this is a situation where the biome extends up into low orbit. So, it's pretty interesting. I like that because it gives you a lot of opportunities to do additional science. Speaking of which, we're going to do a very cautious EVA and get out, hang on for dear life, while we record our observations about the situation. Keep that data, and get back in. We're saving that last goo containment unit for when we land. But before we do anything else, since this is our first time in orbit and we get these beautiful, beautiful views, I do love, this game is so pretty. I'm going to accelerate time so that I can whip around the planet and experience our very first sunrise in orbit. Don't want to overshoot here, so we'll slow down a little bit. Yeah, now you're getting into it, Hudson. Now you're enjoying yourself. And here it comes. Our very first sunrise in orbit. I love it. So, we're going to take this opportunity to take a picture. F2 to clear away the screen. Line up a nice shot there. Ooh, beautiful. I love it. Take a quick screenshot. And you know what? That's where we're going to wrap it up. We have a little bit more science to do on our way down. The next episode, we will land, and I'll talk a little bit about mods. I did mention the navball mod, and we'll plan our next mission, and we'll talk about what we want to accomplish in this. What is our goal for career mode? So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys again. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, have fun and game on.